All right, so let's talk about Amazon and why it would be, why I believe it's in your best interest to, do the hard work and form a union in order to improve the standards, safety, quality of life, and, just pay, for the FC work. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's going to be for drivers and, everybody involved. But, for the start of it, I'm talking to fellow FC employees who are doing a similar thing than I'm doing. Why would you not, just pop off, go find any other job out there and, not, do the work of forming a union and, improving these situations. So, a little bit about myself. I've only been with Amazon for about 2 years, but, I've done a little bit of everything from, hauling and demolition to, like customer service to, retail, and I've even had a job at a company that measures roofs through satellite imagery, managing international and domestic teams' workflows. So a fairly good, office type job, with a moderate level of responsibility and whatnot. But yeah, no, I'm currently working at Amazon, and I have been for the last 2 years. And the reason why it's in your best interest and mine to form a union and improve, the standard of everything is, compared to everything else out there, we're in the similar pay scale. We're probably, on the higher end of that pay scale. Our health benefits are actually pretty darn good. You find yourself a cost-effective way to provide health insurance to, your family, yourself. For the dudes out there, make sure you're actually using that health insurance. My mom's got to get on me all the time about actually doing it, and it's just, never mind. That's not here nor there. But everybody out there, if you're paying for your health insurance, go out there, get your preventative maintenance done. But yeah, I mean, Amazon itself is definitely in a position where it's going to be able to, compensate its employees to the point that'll actually, make just a massive difference in your lives. So, that's why it's worth staying with Amazon. We're already doing fairly well relatively compared to, the rest of the, entry-level jobs. And bear in mind, all of those jobs, should, you succeed with forming the Amazon labor union and actually, getting a strong deal, that is the framework for every other person working a similar type job at every similar type company nationwide. So that is a huge deal. So, it's not just about us. It's going to be about for, everybody else out there, which is the bulk of the labor force in the United States. So, there will be, a lot on the line for potentially massive improvements to a lot of people's lives. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I worked at an O'Reilly's for a while. I caught the COVID there. It wasn't a bad gig or anything like that, but, yet again, instead of investing in their employees, their overarching strategy seemed to be just anytime a competing business, like popped up another, store was to, invest in putting a store right across the street or something. So, not ideal. Other than that, I mean, hauling and demolition, some of the best time that I ever had, but, that's probably, the people that I was working with and, kind of the freedoms that come with that job. But, that's, hard work and, manual labor. But, if you're looking to get into the trades, I mean, hauling and demolition is, kind of the first step in a lot of those projects. And, you get to rub elbows with a lot of people, see what a lot of different people are doing, and, that could be good for you. So, keep that in mind. But yeah, no, retail is going to fall under the same category as a lot of what we're doing, customer service. Last night I tried getting in contact with, Microsoft's customer service, to fix a catastrophic problem on a computer. There wasn't showing up on their web page anymore to be able to get towards the BitLocker password, and they're just had a AI running it. So another reason why it's in everybody's best interest to get on that stick with and see through the Amazon labor union is it's 2025. I mean, robotics is getting fairly impressive. Artificial intelligence, everybody's tripping out about that one right now. That AI agent sucked last night, by the way, but, that's one out of a ton of them. Some of that stuff is getting pretty impressive. But, bear in mind that AI agent probably did exactly what it was trained to do, which is just like be a point of contact and, tell people to, essentially get off the line and hunt down their problem themselves on the FAQ portion of their website. So that was a huge disappointment, but, neither here nor there. But, I just wanted to say, this is the stuff that's going to be on the line. You're going to want to have, strong negotiating power. On an equal footing with the people who are making these decisions. We want people employed. We want to be compensated well for that employment. And, quality of life stuff, if they're able to, just keep the temperature at like a 75-degree thing, engineer the building for max performance versus the reality of like getting a job done. So I'm talking about like the stove floors where there's like 2 bathroom stalls for I can't think about how many people on a floor. There's 2 elevators for a building of like 500 people or something like that are I can beat the elevator up on foot, and it's just ridiculous. And then just the pathways themselves. I mean, it's like a couple inches wider for that tote tank than it is for so like if one person's walking and like a tote tank is trying to like move up and down the aisle, one of the 2 of you has to figure out how to get out of the way, and that's just not built for humans. Like another massive improvement for quality of life, just as an example, putting a camera up on top of the building, kind of like that Space Needle cam or whatever that just constantly does a 360 pan. How they have those FC games that are, I don't know, it keeps me, relatively entertained, doing that critter creamery thing. But, it's a whole bunch of nothing. We all know that. But if they were to put like a webcam on top of the camera, on top of the building, you could at least, put that on that monitor and, be able to have a view outside of the window instead of just being in a concrete box and that sort of deal. Another quality improvements that, should resonate with everybody is having like a cellular repeater, so that inside of that concrete building, your cell phone actually works. So let's say your kid's sick at school, that phone call is going to come through, right off the bat, or, any sort of family emergency, text message or what have you. I mean, that should be, a given, but, here we are. So, yeah, and other than that, safety. I mean, stuff happens. You're never going to be batting, 100% or anything like that. But, one of the most profitable companies in the country should not be, leading, and I don't have the actual statistics, but, should not be the leading, source of on-the-job injuries or, what have you. So it's a bad look, Amazon. But yeah, why is it worth your time to stick it out and, try to deal with the current white badge, blue badge situation? Just because this is what's going to matter for the rest of the nation. Your hard work, your accomplishment of forming the Amazon Labor Union is going to make a massive amount of difference for anyone in a similar type job. And, don't get me wrong, you got your priorities first. You got to take care of your family and do what's right for you. So, if dealing with the situation as it is currently, you don't find yourself up to that challenge, I totally understand, and, nobody's going to hold that against you. First and foremost, you need to do what's right for you and your family. But, in the long run, my experience has been everything else out there. It's going to be the same thing, and, in a lot less realistic of a position to be able to be the driving force of, massive improvements for the bulk of the nation's employees. So, Amazon is going to be able to pave the way, and, you are in a prime position, no pun intended, but you are in a prime position to be able to be that driving change. So, that's why I think it's in, everyone's best interest to do the hard work and to see the Amazon Labor Union through. So.